Hi, so in the previous presentations we've looked at how we learn and we've looked at client-centered learning and through that we've learned, we should understand now that this is the best way to create the learning environment. So we're now going to look at the LD system and you'll see as we go through it that the LD system has client-centered or student-centered principles at its core. We've always believed in heavy involvement of the learner. As it happens, it also will give you the structure that's required to be successful on your Part 3 or your standards check. And if you're going further, similar things on audit, we can use the same techniques. So the system is about, it's the DVD and the workbook, and we have online resources on the Instructor Hub that are designed to empower the student, to let them know what they need to learn, how they can go about it, or various ways of going about it, how they'll know when they've learned it. So it really gives them a program of lesson topics to choose and follow. So for any given stage, so the column here is skill levels, and then the lessons are spread out. So if they're at this skill level, they can do any one of those lessons. So it helps when we're trying to break down barriers. You know, if we have a student who's not terribly responsive, you know, what do you want to do today? I don't know. Well, we can offer them choices. So it gives them a program of lesson topics to choose from and follow. And eventually you'll find that they'll do a little pick and mix routine. And for each lesson or each topic, the video that's on the DVD, and it's also on the hub, gives a demonstration of best practice in the form of a professional lecture. And it explains in the workbook what to do and why and how, using illustrations and words. It describes suitable learning areas and or routes. Now at the start of each lesson topic, you'll find there's information there. So see, looking for the right page. There's information that's all about what the aim of the lesson is, what the test criteria is, and the kind of locations we should be using. It also outlines potential learning steps, activities, the blue boxes in each of the lesson text, that gives us some things we can do to set up structured experiences so they can learn from it. And it also provides a set of learning targets for each lesson. So you and the student, in the conversation at the end, you could help the student to decide, do they feel confident in their ability to do that? And then they all transfer, of course, to the master progress chart. So if the question ever comes to you, am I ready for my test? You tell me. So it's all about the student, and it's making sure that we're following a process that will gain you success at Part 3 and standards check. So the workbook also provides a lesson plan and a reflective diary, which you'll see here. We have the topics at the top, they can choose a topic. And then the reflective diary and plan, it's all about, well, what do you want to do today? How do you want to go about it? What sort of areas or routes or exercises can we do? And then there's an end of lesson review. You know, what did they like? What did they not like? The things that worked, why did they work? The things that didn't work, why was that? What did they enjoy the most? Was there anything they didn't enjoy? Improvements that they feel they made, improvements still yet to be done. And did they achieve some, all, or none of the targets? So it's a real, if you like, performance review. And of course at the back it has the appointment and payment record, and it has the driving test criteria. So if you get asked the question, will I fail my test for that? You tell me. So if we want to get through any kind of assessment, really, we need to know what the assessment criteria is before we start. So it's available in hard copy, but also online. Now, a lot of your students might want to just use it online or use it on their phone or on the hub. So 3 basic types of lesson: control skills, road skills, and traffic skills. What we're doing here is we're managing the risk. It's a logical learning order. We're going from simple to complex, easy to difficult, component to whole, and low risk to high risk. And we're transferring responsibility as we go to the learner. It's very flexible. It gives us freedom within form. So at any level, we can choose a range of lessons on that level. And the student can pick their own way through the program. Now these key skills are developed over time. We start with control skills. A lot of the control skills, they're about feel, and it's about learning to do those in an almost automatic way. We must have mastery of these early stage things: clutch control, the ability to steer using our eyes, to go up and down through the gearbox without having to look down. Everything else beyond that, once we move to the road end of things, it's a combination of those skills. The traffic skills, well, it's just, again, a higher level. Traditionally, it would develop, as you see in the diagram, there would be a sharp cut-off, as though it was with a sharp knife, following a test pass. If we're using client-centered techniques, if we're having the learner reflect and evaluate the outcomes of their efforts, the learning should, in theory, never stop. So each lesson has targets to meet and small, easy learning steps to follow. Remember, we want things to happen in small, easily manageable steps. And our master progress chart maps across, of course, to the national standard for driving cars and light vans. And the last target in each of the target pages is about the test criteria, and then it shows you where it maps across to the national standard. So lesson 1, topic targets. The only one really that you need to tick throughout the book is lesson 1, target 1. I was able to show my driving instructor I could read the number plate, so you have to say, yep, you can tick that. The rest are all about them feeling confident in their ability to. So this is a conversation that you would have with them at the end, and you'll see at the bottom, target 10, test requirements, and then it maps across below that to the national standard. So we've taken no chances here, we've omitted no detail, no matter how slight. It's also available online, and it would show in terms of percentage completed of those targets. So we need to set the whole thing up. It may well be that your learner is not used to this method of working, so we kind of set the scene before we start, and we do that with a home visit. I would encourage you to, say to the learner, would you like me to come around and show you how it all works? Sometimes they don't want to do that, that's fine. Allocate some time before you start on lesson 1 to do it before you get going. It's important that we set the scene, that everybody knows what's expected of them and what they can expect of the other party. It's setting expectations. I think in any human endeavour, it goes wrong when expectations aren't set properly or met. Have a think about it, wherever you've had a relationship that's broken down, with a friend or with a colleague or with a partner. Expectations weren't met, so it's key. So we show them the system, explain to them this is to help you take control, to direct what, where, how, when, and why we're learning to drive. Now, you may find some resistance, because they're thinking, well, aren't you the teacher? Isn't that the way it works? They'll come to you with a preconceived idea about what it's all about. But the key thing is to be helping them to break these barriers down. So don't say, no, you must take control, because they won't like that. Show them the workbook course diagram and explain how the program works. Get the buy-in from the student and from the paying customer, which may well be parents. Show them the master progress chart and explain how the lesson targets are used to track their progress throughout the program. And it's designed to help them evaluate their own performance towards driving test standard, towards their own goals. Provides a means to find out what they've covered if they've been with another school. So this is how we start our part 2 program now. I simply get the candidate to go through all the targets. If they're already a driver, take what they're comfortable with, leave blank anything that they're not, put a circle around anything that's a known bad habit, transfer those to the master progress chart, and we can then start to see, well, what we know and what we don't. So get your learner to look through all the targets with a view to letting you know what they are comfortable with or not, what they're confident about, and leaving those blank that they're not. Circles around anything that's a known bad habit. Transfer them to the master progress chart. That then helps you to say, okay, let's look at the ones that we've got the circles around, or let's look at the ones that are blank. Should we start with those? And then get them to consider, well, what would you like to work on first? Either a full lesson topic or a specific set of skills, and record it on their first lesson plan in the workbook. Encourage them to do this on their own. Once they get into it, you'll find the leg. And it doesn't matter if they're not writing these things down. You'll see that Claire, on the lessons that you've been watching, makes copious notes. Danielle, not so much, but it doesn't matter. We're going through the same process. What do you want to work on? How do you want to do it? How does what we already know relate to what we're doing here? Have we done any of this stuff before? The key thing is the buy-in, to get them actively involved at least, or better still, to own the whole process. Then depending on what we've recorded, you might decide between you that, well, it's a while since I've driven, maybe I could just do a little assessment drive and see what there is that comes up. That might be necessary from a risk management point of view, or whether you feel that you can trust them in their choice. And always start somewhere quiet. We must be managing risk. You've not met this person before, so make sure that you go somewhere quiet. Offer it to them. I've yet to have somebody refuse. I'll normally say, look, you're not used to me, you're not used to the car, do you want to start somewhere quiet? Invariably they go, oh God, yeah, that'd be great. So our lesson plan, and you can see the sheet on the right, the topics are at the top. We're asking them, what topic or topics or themes would you like to work on? What goals or outcomes in addition to the targets of the chosen topic? That might be something like, I just want to feel more confident. Okay, how could we go about that? Ask them about areas, routes, exercises suitable to help them. If they don't know, you can input, that's fine. But the aim always is to transfer that responsibility to them when they're ready for it. And then make sure that each of the above items would together represent a logical learning step that can realistically and safely be achieved in today's session. You might have limitations of time, location, and consider whether it logically follows on from their reflection and the outcome of the last lesson. We'll look more at that later. And then after the lesson, we mark the targets in the learner's workbook. Did they achieve some, most, or all of the planned topic targets, and any other goals or outcomes? Do we now feel more confident? Did you achieve that? Always backtrack, always reread. I think if you've worked on a lot of stuff, make sure go back to the original lesson plan and say, well, have you ticked all those boxes? If not, make sure that's part of the next lesson plan. And then of course we would say, okay, what's our provisional plan for next time? Now that we've completed this, what's the next logical step? That might mean a look back again at this, or they might have some clear ideas. It may well be that they want to go over some stuff that they've already done. So help them to see that they have options. We can move to the next stage. We can consolidate everything we've done. Or there might be some specific things you want to work on. So encourage them to reflect now, but also after the event. The two numbers at the top give them an insight into how they feel about themselves and the lesson delivered overall. If you're consistently getting low marks here, then you've got to look at that and have a chat about it. What was planned and did it work? This will help you see how clear or unclear the plan was to the learner, and whether what followed seemed like a logical progression to them or something a bit more haphazard. What did they enjoy the most? I'll give you an idea about what you do that they like. Also, what didn't they enjoy? I'll give you an insight into the things that you did or that you set up that didn't work so well and might need revising, or that the learner has great concerns about. I think it's very important for us that we reflect. Was it a good lesson? Would you do anything different next time? Did you help the learner to understand? If your learner's not really understanding and not buying in, then that's an issue for you, not for them. I get this all the time with the guys. Sure, well, I've got learners that, you ask them what they want to do and they just don't know. Well, if you're asking bad questions, nobody wants to be passive. There's a myriad of different reasons why there might be, but nobody really truly wants to be passive. And then evaluate your performance. It encourages the learner to critically assess their own performance and identify where opportunities might exist for future development. So you might choose to conduct the lesson reflection at the end of the lesson, like a brief overview, or ask the learner to do it before the next lesson, or indeed you might get them to do part of the reflection at the end of the lesson, leaving the more detailed evaluation of their performance to be done later. This is how we're hardwired to learn. Remember, we learned about this in Kolb's experiential learning cycle. We experience something, we reflect, we put new plans in place, and we have another go. So show them how they can use the lesson plan to decide what lesson topic or topics in the program to cover next, and at what level, or which skills or abilities they'd most like to work on today, or perhaps any other aspect of the driving they would like to feel better about or feel more confident about. What type of tasks, areas or routes they would need, all based on the reflection of the last lesson. Now, it doesn't matter if they don't know the area and they can't decide routes. You can input there. But be very careful wherever we're inputting that we don't continue to input, that we don't take over. Explain how to use the reflective log to revisit the lesson, to help reinforce what they've learned, to evaluate the outcomes achieved. by reviewing the lesson targets marked at the end of the lesson and answering any questions on the reflective log with a view to formulating goals for the next lesson and then deciding what preparation would be useful in between. Now sometimes they don't want to write things down here because maybe they're not very good at writing, but it doesn't matter as long as we're going through this process, then we're unlocking the learning process for that human being. So the video will then give them a brief to help the learner and you perhaps see what they need to do. The topic information includes written and illustrated briefs to help them make sense, because all learners are different. A lesson quiz, some of them love this, some of them don't. It helps the learner to check their understanding, and I think if you're new, you should really be going through this book and making sure that you know it. This will make you much stronger as an instructor because it's giving you the right structure, to plan your lessons around. And then some learning steps or activities, the blue boxes in each lesson. Now, if they want to cover a whole lesson topic, you're probably going to have to go through all those exercises. So it gives you a list of potential activities or challenges that the learner might want to undertake during the lesson, presented in a logical learning order designed to achieve the lesson targets, i.e. the standards. Now, you don't have to use all of these. You and your learner between you might come up with some new stuff. It may well be that in your area you can't quite do it in that order, or that some of those things would need to be added to a later lesson perhaps. So it's flexible. So you have to decide if these learning steps can be easily accommodated in the practice areas that you intend to use. If not, create your own activities. The more options you have, the better you'll be able to meet the needs of your learner, and the more options you can offer them if they become stuck. Encourage the learner to engage in these steps, or better still, see if they can come up with ideas of their own. And then find suitable practice areas. Now we've done in the test bit, I've done a video specifically on making the most and getting the most out of practice areas. Do take the time to have a look at that. So describe how viewing the video, studying the information in the workbook and doing the quiz will save time on the driving lesson, and lots of time. Explain how the learning steps provide a useful set of potential learning activities that can perform during the driving lesson to help them develop the necessary skills required to achieve the lesson targets. If you're getting this right, every lesson is only done once. You never have to go back to it because they're actively involved, and it makes logical sense the way that we're doing it. Explain how together you need to find suitable location or locations and or routes, practice areas to carry out each learning activity. So it's really about involvement of the learner. So you need to understand the system and how it works. So you must work through it as part of your preparation to become a driving instructor. So lesson, route, activity and planning is a huge part of what we do. If you put the time into this, it will serve you well. In Binder 1 of your ITC coursework, that's Instructor Training Course, you'll find a lesson route planning project for each of the LDC lessons. It's essential that you complete these and show the results to your trainer. Base them around the targets and the learning steps in the workbook for each lesson. So you'll need those for the area that you're going to work in, but you'll also need them for the area that you're going to sit your Part 3 exam in. You need short, repetitive routes, lesson chunks with varying levels of difficulty to help the learner grow in competence in small, easy steps, primarily using discovery learning and reflection as the main learning strategy, with minimal support from you wherever possible, as long as it's safe. If you're inputting too much, it's a bad route. Make sure you've got places to stop for reviews, or places where there's long straight roads where you can do that. Eventually, you'll compile a pick and mix inside your brain that you can just pick from for the learner to consider. Once you know your area extremely well and all the best places to carry out each learning step in the workbook and or those of your own creation. So it's vital. Having a great working knowledge of your area will never hurt you. Not having a good working knowledge will always hurt you. And not having a plan B. We see this sometimes where people have meticulously planned a route, they turn up at the test centre and overnight they've dug the road up. You haven't got a route B. So you must be able to think on your feet. Part of this process is not about training you to pass the test. It's about training you to create the right learning environment and to be able to think on your feet to be able to work out what do I need to do now. In this way, if you're presented with a challenge for some reason, the pupil has a bad day, you're having a bad day, you will be able to think your way through it. It's about developing you as a human being and as a driving instructor, not about giving you things to do. So you've got to develop yourself, really. So creating logical learning steps, what's that all about? Well, have a think about what makes a road feature, such as a junction, harder or easier to negotiate. Exclude factors that relate to the driver. So let's have a little chat about that. So the path you intend to follow, left, right or straight. Generally, turning left is probably easier, but that doesn't apply to a Y junction. Physical road characteristics, the width of the road, the camber, the gradients, the shape of any corners, the bends, height of the curbs. On your nursery routes, you don't want high curbs, otherwise they'll be breaking your alloy wheels. Are there any dips, potholes, puddles? What's the road surface like? Are there leaves on it, speed humps, that sort of stuff? In the early stages, we want very basic roads. We don't want, things that are going to overcomplicate things. What's your zone of vision like on approach and as you negotiate the feature? Any parked vehicles or other obstructions around? Road restrictions, one way, no waiting, no parking, clearways, red routes, that sort of stuff. The volume, speed and types of traffic you can expect to meet. Also keep an eye out in the test centres for notes from the DVSA from local residents saying, please can you stop using this road. The number, the type of vulnerable road users and pedestrians who might be about, different times of day might affect that. What's the weather like, the time of year. In winter time the sun is low, and on a wet road with a low sun, that's not ideal, so you might use a different area that's got some buildings sheltering it. So bear the above in mind as you plan routes or choose practice areas. It's vital that you've put a lot of work into this. Consider what level of knowledge, understanding, skill and confidence your learner would need to deal with these road features on the routes or areas you propose to use for each of the lessons within the LD system. So the key thing here is small, easy steps. So they're able to do it without too much input from you. And the more you've considered what these learning activities or challenges might be within each of your lesson topics and how best they could practically be accommodated where you live, the better you'll be able to advise, give choices, or indeed accommodate the learner's own ideas in this regard. So a small, easy step is an activity or task or challenge that works towards their goal or goals, is suitable for their capabilities at this point, their current physical or emotional state, that represents a challenge but it is not daunting. Remember that learning flow where challenge and ability are matched. It's within their comfort zone with a clear plan of how you'll collectively deal with any unavoidable aspects that may be outside their comfort zone. That's critical to managing risk without excessive instructional support. If you're jumping in all the time, you're ruining the flow. So this is what we want to have, this learning flow. It's really vitally important. So if you have a look on our YouTube channel and look at the lessons you'll see me giving to Danielle, you'll see the type of locations and routes that you'll need for each driving lesson in the LD system. For where I live, you'll need to work that out for where you live. You want a certain amount of excitement, but not dread. You don't want them worrying overly about the stuff. You want to secure learning by success rather than by failure. You want to be achieving goals, not continually having to fix things that aren't quite right. If you're continually having to input that way, the step is probably too large or the location isn't ideal. It's really, really important that we have a great deal of thought put to this. So let's look at the structure. Beginning of the lesson, that's where we go through our reflection from last time. If they've not done the notes, it's fine, you go through it. The middle is where we develop, the end is have we achieved what we wanted to achieve. But that middle part might be a whole series of mini goals. But what we're going to do now is, in the next little bit, we're going to look at each section in turn. So let's have a look at the lesson beginning. They will have done a reflective log and a lesson plan, if we've got them to buy in. You will have the form that you see on screen here, Instructor's Lesson Log and Notes. This is to help you, certainly in the early stages, to make sure that you're doing the right things to display competence in the areas you're going to be assessed on. So we start by saying good morning, check how they're feeling. Are they ready? Introduce anybody who might be observing, and then tick the appropriate boxes on the form. Now be careful here, because I've seen new instructors falling foul of, getting too involved. Good morning, how are you? Oh, not very well at all, my boyfriend's an idiot. And then getting involved in that kind of conversation. You're not qualified. That's not part of what you're being paid to do. If you truly want to be in the top 5%, you cannot get involved in that kind of nonsense. There's no room for you finding out what's going on in their private life, and there is absolutely and utterly never a reason for you to be sharing what's going on in yours. You're being paid to be a professional driving instructor, so do that. Don't get involved in the nonsense that I see other people getting involved in. It's bad for business. So, recap of the previous end of lesson review. Look at that review. Did we have a provisional plan for today's lesson? And have they done any preparation? Always compliment any preparation they've done. Oh, brilliant, well done. It's vitally important that we're encouraging them to do more of it, so praise them when they've done it. If they've done a reflective log, it's no good you taking this from them and just throwing it on the back seat. Otherwise they're not going to do another one, are they? So look at the reflection. Explore some of the answers they've given it. If completed, otherwise ask the questions. If they've not done it, go through it now. What was your favourite bit? What was your least favourite bit? Were you surprised by anything in a good way, in a bad way? Why was that? If you were doing anything again, what would you do different? And make a note of the answers. Once they see how valuable that is, they'll start doing it themselves. Review their initial plan if it's completed. Explore to see if the plan's realistic, safe, and adapt it as necessary. As you agree each topic, or topics or theme to include, tick or note that on the form here in 3.1. You can see we're looking at the topics there. List each topic and the corresponding target numbers as a goal in 3.2, and then list any additional goals. Tick the end box to show that you've considered the appropriateness or the risk of each task. And then finally, develop an outline plan, noting at least the first couple of chunks of training, a couple of steps in 3.3. And tick the box at the end of each step listed to show that a risk strategy is being considered and was agreed for the activity. This will help you to learn the process you need to facilitate client-centered learning. And it is about facilitating learning, not teaching, which is a different thing. So, a piece of video here where we're going to watch Claire and I at the start of a lesson. So when you're watching the lesson, I want you to, she wants to do bay parking today. Consider whether her goals were identified and was there an agreed plan. So it's no good me just saying, right, we're doing this and this is where we're going to go and do it, because that's not client-centered. Client-centered also doesn't mean just doing whatever the client wants. There must be a considered plan. The risk must be managed. You might find it useful to have a part 3 or a standards check marking form here and look at the topics or the competencies that need to be displayed and think, well, have we done that here? You'll see that there is a particularly tricky junction on our way to the location we're going to use. Ask yourself the question, is there a plan in place to deal with that? So watch the video, discuss that with your trainer, discuss it in the group with other PDIs or any Zoom sessions that we're doing. It's really vitally important that we learn the process that's contained within this, because this will give you everything you could need. Not just for your part 3 or for your standards check, but to work as an effective facilitator of learning and a professional driving instructor at the pointy end. Why would you put all that effort in? Because you'll get paid more money. We'll see you after the video. That's a cold wind, isn't it? Oh, took my coat off. I should have maybe left it on.
How are you today?
Fine and dandy. Better than last week. Less full of snot anyway. So I suppose that's progress.
I know my cough's clearing up a little bit now.
So have you done your reflection?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Getting proper detailed notes now, aren't we? Excellent. So I've decided to go down the manoeuvre route. Cool. Vital skills. Yeah. Complex situations. You like to build on your skills of reversing and getting used to the gearing and also different gradients. Okay. You enjoyed the freedom as we worked on your basic junctions. You did, however, panic at one point and stalled the car when setting off uphill. I allowed. Luckily you reacted well to that. Good. This is the first time I felt less confident when driving. Well, they do. Every once in a while things can happen, and it's, you know, you encounter something you've never encountered before. But as you quite rightly said, you dealt with it, which is great. If you learn better, try new things. But all right, I feel better if I have more practice on this, as I think I'm too slow setting off. Okay. So what would you like to do or feel better about? Practice uphill starts. Should have maybe got you to read it. Practice uphill starts, changing gear quickly when coming to a junction. More and more practice on the roads. So we'd said we'd go down the manoeuvre route. Would you rather do some more work on that?
Well, I think if we go down manoeuvre route, we're still going to be covering basic junctions.
We are. It's I mean, we can, because every time we're doing everything, we're going to basic junctions. So you still okay to do we're going to do maybe a Bay Park?
Yeah.
Over near where you are? Cool. Well, we will be doing some the quieter ones here, but of course as we get further down towards where...
Don't you need to drive there?
Oh, no, well, I could do, but if we left from here and we went along Checkerfield Lane, turned left, and then right at that mini roundabout, that takes us down to the...
I think where I am now.
What do they call the pub? The Yorkshire Penny? Used to be the Cobbler.
Oh, Cobbler.
And
It's
then
the
left
Cobbler.
there.
It used to be Yorkshire Penny.
So as we go along there, the junctions are getting slightly busier each time. So I mean, I'm happy to drive you there, but if you want to see, maybe we can try that and see how you feel on the way there. You okay with that?
Yeah, I just know that junction's scary.
It's busier. That would be the busiest one we've done. But remember, I'm always here to help you. And if you feel that you need help, just shout. And it's doing exactly what we've done before. You know, where you've made the decision to go or not. But what's the difference this time? So that junction at the bottom, do you think?
This car's coming from all over.
Yeah, because you've got to, when you do make the decision, you've got to
forward, that way. Yeah.
So there's lots happening, is there? Because there's also the traffic, because it's a staggered junction as well, isn't it? So there's the traffic coming across. I mean, we can, you know, if you don't feel confident about it, we can stop before we get there and I can take us there. Or if you can go there, we can work it between us. What do you reckon?
No, I think I'll try it.
Excellent. Good stuff. Righty-ho. So, Bay Parking today, and we'll do, obviously, working on the junctions as we go along, and anything else that kind of comes up,
Bay
really.
Parking is in getting it in the line.
Yes.
Oh.
Everybody thinks they're not going to do it. But it's, well, we'll have a chat about it when we get there. And, do you think there's anything you've done so far that might help you with that?
What, Bay Parking?
Yeah.
Reversing?
Yeah. Well, it's the same skills, isn't it?
Yeah, just getting it right.
So once we've done that, if time permits, when we come back, we can maybe do a few laps around where that uphill junction is and
Yeah.
do a bit of practice on there.
That's just, it's roundabout, that one. It's because it were different, it were uphill.
Well, it's a combination of a lot of different things, isn't it? Where you've brought a lot of the skills together that we've already done, but it's all got to be done in that little concentrated space. It's just practice, like you quite rightly identify. When you're ready, off we go. Everything's set the way you want it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, we're going to look at the lesson middle now. You would tick or scale the outcomes as you reviewed and reflected upon each step or chunk undertaken, noting the goals or needs being addressed in the end box of each segment of the form. And we're making sure here that we're staying on track, that we are delivering the competencies as required by the National Standard for Driver and Rider Training. The purpose of any action, step or chunk of learning should be clear to the learner and to you, and to an examiner who's observing you or a trainer who's observing you, and it should be relevant to the lesson at hand. Adapt the above plan as necessary to meet the developmental needs continually, so that as things come up, you're either replacing the existing plan or adding these new things to the plan. Respond to the learner's needs, and if necessary, adapt any aspect of the plan that you've agreed so far. You might repeat the same action or step a few times until the desired learning was achieved and all of the developmental needs have been addressed, i.e. any problems sorted, rather than call them false, any risk identified as being addressed. If a step too far, you might need to give more support to ensure a successful outcome, followed by a gradual reduction of the support. Or better still, You might change the step to something more suitable with little or no support from you. So each step needs to be a small, bite-sized chunk. If the step resulted in a successful outcome, you need to perhaps increase its difficulty on the next attempt in some way, or move on to something new, or reduce your level of support. Remember, you're always moving from simple to complex, easy to hard, component to whole, low risk to higher risk. Small, easy, goal-oriented actions or steps or chunks. This is vital if we want to help people develop quickly. If we've got this balance between challenge and ability matched nicely, it just makes everything work. So we're going to cut into the drive to the location here. And what I want you to be thinking about, so our lesson topic today is Bear Park. So you can look at that, that's about halfway through the video. But I've left in the journey to the location, and I want you to think about, and this video was shot for something else, so this is not necessarily the way I would do it going forward if I had a standards check, that kind of stuff. These videos were shot to show the development of the individual. But I want you to consider, is the risk managed? And if so, how is it managed? And if you look at things, I'll give you, for example, when we're stopped at the junction, I look down constantly at the gear lever to make sure we're in first gear, because that's been a problem before. So I'm managing the risk there, but am I demonstrating that competence to an examiner behind? And this is key. You know, I hear this all the time from ADIs who say, oh, well, I normally learn better than the examiner. Well, if there are things that are happening that are not clear, it's our job to make it clear to the examiner so he can see that you are delivering competence. So again, you may wish to sit with a form on your lap and mark it as you go through, and then discuss what you've discovered with your trainer, with other PDIs in the group, or perhaps on any Zoom sessions. So we're going to cut in on the journey to the location, and we're going to cover the junction that we talked about. That's quite a difficult one as part of this segment. Excuse me. What do you think? Yeah, good. Well done. Not enough room for us both, was there? Oh dear. Well done. It's a nice hill start.
Right, it's put my handbrake on just in case I will back.
Yep, good. Excellent.
Oh, it's weird going uphill.
It doesn't climb hills terribly well, this car. As you're probably noticing.
Yeah.
So what does the sign ahead tell us?
That we give priority, give way
Good, excellent, well done.
to oncoming traffic. Please tell me isn't any. Still got to like slow down before you get to it.
Always worthwhile in places like this, in these like chicanes, just have a quick check before you go through, in case the guy behind you said he's going to overtake you, which can happen sometimes.
Oh, right, God.
Remember, we're always assuming they're going to try and kill us.
Trying to claim it back with me. Because
Away from you. There you go.
Go.
So at the end of the road, we'll take the road leading to the left, please. Do you need any help here, or do you want to do it on your own?
I'll try and do it on my own.
Okay. I'll be quiet. Shout out if you need any help.
I just feel like I'm going really fast.
You can feel how the hill really makes the speed pick up. So how much can you see on the way in?
Quite a lot. What do you think? Am I right?
What do you reckon?
I think so.
Go on then. And then accelerate briskly away. On a bigger road this time, we need to pick our speed up to match the speed of the traffic. How was that?
Right.
There you go. All that worrying.
Can't get into gear.
That's good. You've done the right thing.
This is my problem. It's straight. It's not straight up, is it? It's
No.
going third.
Remember, turn your palm towards you. There you go.
Oh do.
But you see something that you do perfectly well normally, when you bring something new in, sometimes the older skills get a bit rusty.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter. So how much room have we got here, do you think?
I think we've got quite a lot of room.
Okay. If you move out a little earlier, I think you're signalling then your intention to go through.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good stuff. And take the next road on the left, please.
Do we go too fast?
How fast we going?
Not fast. No. We're going the
Take
route.
this next one on the left.
Doing this in third.
That's okay.
So quite a wide.
It is. So this junction, you possibly can. But as you come to move away again, do you think second might have given you a bit more usable power?
Probably. Can I drop down the gear now?
You can. Your Roman can. And then we'll take this next road on the right.
This one.
This one just in here. And then move to the left once you're in the car park. Well done. And we'll stop somewhere along here on the left.
Ooh.
That'll do us nicely there. So as you can see, we've got loads of space here. How'd that feel then?
Alright.
Okay. You managed it? Did you need any help from me?
No.
So it's just...
I'm really proud of myself for that junction.
Yeah. Well, it's a busy junction. You know, each junction we came to was slightly more complicated than the
Yeah.
next. So your view was limited there. You're moving into faster moving traffic. You've got the added complication of that junction where they come across and cut the corner. So, yeah, well done. It's good. Well, it's every time you're coming into something new.
It's just because it's busier. I'm used to Chesterfield and it being quiet and.
Well, that's right. So we're dipping our toes
But
in the
I like
busy
it.
traffic.
I like having that.
No wrong with a challenge.
No, I like having a challenge.
And as long as the challenge isn't too big, and you know the step that we take is a reasonable size one,
Yeah.
then everything's all right. This is where things can start to go wrong if you take a step that's too big and you end up swamped, which is why we always start off with all the basic control skills. And if you think back, what we said was that we were just putting them into slightly busier and busier situations.
Yeah.
So how do you think everything went? Did you control the car?
All the right decisions, didn't I? Do you think?
I do. Yeah. It's. That was the question I was going to ask you. Did you make the right decision based on what you had in front of you at the time?
To what I know, yeah. You just obviously told me.
Well,
I know now, yeah, thinking about it, they might have thought I was parking up, so they wouldn't have given me enough space on that side.
You're just kind of protecting your position, because if you keep tucked in, somebody's going to come past you. The L plates make them do that as well, of course. So what you're doing is, in effect, without putting the indicator on, because you took that early position, you're still signalling to people. You're saying, well, I want to come through here. And what it can do, it's proactive defensive, you call it. So you make that move out, somebody might then think, oh, they want to come through it, and just tuck in and let you. Whereas if they don't do that, then there's not enough room to come through it. So we're information in, information out. We see what's around us, we'll let them know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, the run from the junction along to here, we had quite a lot of traffic there, didn't we? Quite a lot of people about.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make the right decisions? How did it feel?
It's a bit scary.
A little bit, but as long as it's just a little bit, then we're
Just a
all right.
little bit, yeah.
So,
I don't scare very easily. So.
I'm hard. That's good. You know, it's all, we're just building it up layer upon layer upon layer, and there'll come a time where you're not even thinking about it. You just deal with what's in front of you by using your knowledge and skill. Excellent. So, bay parking. What we want to do is to reverse into a bay. We'll let you choose whichever bay that it might be. But how do you think you might do that? Any idea?
Oh, I've got my thing on. Reverse. Obviously. Is it the same as like reversing around a corner,
Well, if you have a look,
but just tighter?
yeah, it's like reversing. You know, the corners we did were fairly rounded. It's like reversing into a corner like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where it's really tight. So if you have a look, find the right page. You can just reverse in from the other side. So I find it easier when there's a car on each bay, because you've got something to line up against. Generally, when we're practicing it, we'll be practicing it in ones that are empty to begin with.
Oh, right, okay. So try and find one.
Well, what we'll do is, on our left-hand side here, I'll let you choose one of the bays behind you and reverse into that. Just you can choose whichever one it is.
Oh, it's going to be difficult, that, trying to find where the lines are, isn't it?
Well, it's how do you normally line yourself up when you're reversing?
I've never gone reverse, like,
Well, it's
that before.
well, you followed the line of the curve around, haven't you? What we'll do is, we'll drive back towards the bay, and then you've just got to really sort of judge when you think you need to put the steering on, and how much steering do you think you're going to need?
Just a bit of guesswork.
Okay, yeah, just going to judge it. Although we don't like the term guesswork.
Yeah, sorry.
But it is to begin with, isn't it? Trial and error. There you go, that's better than
that's better.
guesswork. It doesn't sound quite as random. So how much steering do you think you're going to need?
Quite a lot.
And what sort of speed do you think you might travel at?
Really slow.
Okay. And if you get sort of halfway around it's not working, what do you think you might do?
Straighten up, start again.
Yeah. That's what you'd do if there was nobody else about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we need to be looking?
Everywhere.
Yeah. So again, control, observation and accuracy. And when we're looking around, what do you think you're looking for?
Pedestrians.
Yeah. People
Cars.
maybe, and on a day like today, somebody comes out of that shop and they're going at their car over there.
Or
they're
just
going-
go across without
Yeah, I
pass
mean-
or anything.
And what do you think the weather might do to people?
Rush.
Yeah. And maybe with their head down, not really looking. So we need to take account of that. So in terms of safety, really, while we're manoeuvring, it's up to us to take, all around observation. Now, loads of ways we can do it. But when it comes to observation, so you've got your control skills, your observation and your accuracy. You can take care of all of that on your own if you want, or I can take care of the observation and leave you to do the other stuff. What do you reckon?
I'll try and do it all.
Brilliant. I was hoping you'd say that. Then should we just have a go and see how we end up?
Just do that because I'm going to be reversing it.
Okay, Tony.
Just to look at everything.
We're finding out where the corners of the car are. That's what we're doing, basically.
Right, I'm going to go into that one.
Okay.
Where the tree is.
Righty-ho.
Yeah?
Okay.
Or do you want me to go a little
No,
bit further?
no, that's
I'll
completely
go to
fine.
the next one actually so I can straighten this.
Okay.
Get more of a... I know what I mean, yeah.
Fine.
Still thinking, aren't I? Right, I need to look behind me now. Go on. What would you say I'm doing wrong now?
I wouldn't say you're doing anything wrong.
Not rolling on it.
Nope.
Is this right speed?
Slower the better.
Probably not straight, am I?
Really? Do you think? All right then. How do you think that was? You want to look this side?
I mean, what were you?
Well, not on your. Well, let's look at the distance there. And look at the
Yeah.
distance at your side. Are they the same?
Just about. Am I too far off front, or would you say I could go further back? Or? I wouldn't. I think I'd be alright here.
You can get out and have a look if you want.
Oh my god, he's pretty good.
Well, all right. Well, you say to me it's pretty good. Tell me what would make it better.
Nothing.
Yeah.
That were really good. That were just beginner's luck, that wasn't it?
I bet you it wasn't.
But I think I could do it again, like that.
Why wouldn't you? So what made that
I
successful?
want it to be harder now. I want 2 cars to be there or a car. No,
we can do that in a bit. Well, we can, yeah. So, what made it successful?
Because I was looking all around and going really slow.
Slow is the key.
And judging the car. Well, it's just... You just get... I'm glad I did that. Obviously, you do reversing before you do a bit of parking anyway, but I'm glad I did that right-hand one as well, because that gave me just that little bit extra.
I mean, when you look around here, is there anything else that you think might have helped you a bit?
What do you mean?
I mean, you've lined yourself up beautifully. Well, if you have a look across there, that bear's in the same place, so that can be a little bit of a guide as well. That's what I used as a guide as you were coming in. That's why I thought.
He's not very good parked, though, is he?
He's not. You should leave him a little note. Tell him to show him how to do it. Well, you did.
Go.
You did. It's all about control, observation, and accuracy, and you've got those in spades. So you've just put into practice what you know.
Yeah.
Do you want to try in a different bear?
Yeah, which one?
You choose.
This way or?
Yeah, well, you just go forward and come back into a different one if you want.
Am I going that way? Right.
Well,
do you not do that?
Well, you can go that way and then reverse into the right if you want to try that. If you're up for a challenge, okay, I'll tell you what. This row of bears here, if you want to go forward, and we'll reverse back into the right. Nice that you like a challenge. I like that. So now you've watched the video, consider what have you discovered? Would you do anything different? If so, why would you do it differently? Have a look at the examiner criteria and think about, are you going to be demonstrating competence in the way that they want? So what we're hoping to do is to use discovery learning and reflection, utilising Kolb's experiential learning cycle. We do something, we then review, well, what happened? So what do we learn from that? Now what are we going to do about that? And then we do it again. That one loop around there will ensure that learning happens. It's the way human beings are hardwired to learn. But what are we going to do if a safety critical fault or incident occurs? So we're running along now, teaching and learning, and then a serious issue arises where the risk is escalated. We would use our client-centered learning core comps. The old days we used to talk about fault identification, fault analysis and remedial action. That still has to happen, but of course we want the learner more involved in it so that we make sure that the speed and strength of learning is deep and fast. So we would adapt and then perhaps put together some new goals, either replacing the original activity or adding it alongside. That would depend on the severity of the incident. So it might mean that we're going to interrupt the main learning flow. Prevention is always better than cure, of course. This is where your guardian of safety role comes into play, always being alert to what's going ahead or going on ahead of you, behind you and to the side, and what may happen. So we use our client-centered core comps. We see it, we suss it, we sort it, with heavy involvement of the learner. So if a safety critical incident was prevented, whoa, hang back here, or we're talking about it afterwards, we must bring it to their attention. Were you aware? Don't get involved in, did you realise you made a mistake there? That shreds self-confidence. So identify what happened or might have happened. So we see it and say it. The two things are inextricably linked. We then analyse the root cause if it's not obvious. So we're sussing it out. Now it's not enough just for you to be able to suss it out. We also have to have the learner agree that it's something that needs sorting. Otherwise it's never going to be fixed. They'll do what you want them to do while they're with you, and then they'll go off and do whatever it was they were doing before. So it's really important that they buy in, oh yeah, I can see that needs fixing. And we then must put a plan together to make sure that we reduce the chances of it happening again, that learning takes place. We're then going to look at the lesson end. find out how the learner felt the lesson went. Either use a scale of 1 to 10 or write a short sentence to describe it. It doesn't really matter as long as you've got a methodology that works between you. Get the learner to mark the targets in the learner's workbook, and at the same time note the topic in the left-hand column of this form, and list each of the corresponding target numbers achieved in the right-hand column. Again, we're learning to demonstrate competencies and making sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And you'll see at the bottom of the form we have the lesson planning, risk management and teaching and learning strategies laid out, so you can give yourself a score. As the learner notes the achievement of any other goals in the workbook, again write the goal in the left hand column and the outcome achieved in the right hand column. As the learner's notes the provisional plan for the next lesson and any agreed preparation, you make a note on this form. Also tick what you directed the learner to do in this regard. This will help you to reflect on how it's gone. So your end of lesson reflection and review, how did you feel it went? Either scale it 1 to 10 or write a short sentence to describe it. Use the form to help you recall the lesson and use the cross index to the part 3 competencies, along with the help of your trainer, to assess your own performance. A fuller reflection should be completed in your instructor training course part 3 practical skills logbook. What did you like? What did you not like? Were you surprised by anything? In a good way or in a bad way? What worked? What didn't work? In light of what you've learned, what will you do next time? Have you identified skills that you need to put as part of your next plan for your next session with your trainer? So we're going to look at the end of a lesson this time. And this is, we've just got back following the lesson, the Bay Parking lesson. And you'll see that I'm getting Claire to do most of the work here. You'll see that she is empowered. She sees it as her process. Then there's a bit of a chat at the end about, and I've left it in here because it's useful just to see the interaction between Claire and I, where we talk about, her theory coming up. She's had multiple attempts at the theory, utilising an app that, in fairness, I didn't think was very good. But have a look at it, and again, you might want to be thinking about marking a form. And would you do anything different? There's nothing wrong with doing it different, as long as you know why and what it was you were hoping to achieve. So have a look at the video and then compare notes afterwards.
There we go.
So, how was that?
Alright.
It's okay, isn't it? It's interesting. So when you came back there, where were you looking?
Down there. Behind there.
Whereabouts? That's maybe too obscure a question. I like that you took the view up the side of the cars.
Yeah. Because you can see coming around there.
That's right.
Obviously. When I got a bit further back, I was looking straight down.
That's right.
And that way as well, because sometimes...
Well, it just gives you the early view. It's like if you're approaching a slight bend to the left and there's parked cars on the left, you can look up the inside of the car and get an extra view. So we always try and get that little extra view if we can. So let's look at our targets for today. I'd help if I was on the right page. Yeah, parking.
Thank you. Right. Targets. I feel confident in my ability to move into a suitable starting position. Yes. Select reverse gear, prepare my car to move and position myself to take effective observations. Yeah. Take effective all-round observations, including blind spots. I didn't know.
Really? Look all round, that's good.
Coordinate the controls in order to maintain a speed equivalent to the slow walking pace. Yeah,
or even slower.
Clutch. Yeah. Pause occasionally. Control my vehicle to take effective all-round. Yeah. Use sufficient steering to position my vehicle between the lines. Respond correctly to the road users and pedestrians. Yep. Remember to refasten my seatbelt if removed, but I didn't do that. I feel confident in my ability to safely complete the bay park under more testing circumstances when parked vehicles nearby and pressure of the other road users and pedestrians. Yeah. Did all though.
You did. Without any help really. So that's pretty spectacular, I think.
Thank you.
Well, let's have a look at our reflective log from last week, because let's make sure that we've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Practice uphill starts, changing gear quickly when coming to a junction.
Yeah.
More and more practice on those roads. So we've done that. Again, is that a smiley face?
It is, yeah.
Excellent. Do your reflection after this, and have a think about what we might do next time. What do you think the next logical step might be?
What would be next one after that?
Well, if we're doing, I suppose,
Could do a
turn in the road,
yeah.
could be next one. That's not going to fill a full lesson for us.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. So we might want to think about doing that one at the same time, parallel parking.
Which is
Like
on
putting
the
up
road.
alongside and
Yeah.
reversing in behind the car. I think, if I'm honest, that both of those in one session should be doable.
What about after that? Is that manoeuvres done?
It is, yeah. So it's because your clutch control is so good, and you're able to control the speed of the car. That's if you get the speed right, everything else is a doddle, because you've got time to put it wrong if it's put it wrong if it's going right, put it right if it's going wrong. So that's good. Obviously what we'll be doing is, once we've done all those, we'll be just practicing them all the time and doing them perhaps on not busier roads, but roads where there'll be a bit more traffic and maybe one or two more pedestrians, that kind of stuff. Well, that's good. It's good. And then it's sort of down. Whoops, I had the right page. And we'll maybe think about starting down that route.
Yeah.
So it all comes together not long before the test now too. So once we get that done,
really
we
close.
can get a test booked, get the job finished.
How long's the test wait?
It's not too bad at the minute. I think it's 6 weeks currently, so it's not too bad. What we'll do is we'll book a test, and then if we're not ready in the time frame, we can either nudge the test back,
Yeah.
put more lessons in, or ramp our efforts up, or a combination of all three. Well, no, you can't bring it forward and move it back, can you? I think I'm still poorly from my cold. But we'll get the test and then plan accordingly. That's good. Well done.
I don't want to have, if I can, a time limit. I just want to. I know we're not. That's why I like it, because we're not. We've got to do this by this. It's not like that. It's so. You do it in your own time, and I like that.
Well, I mean, we can. We don't have to. I mean, I'm saying book the test because that's my preference. That's the way I like to do it. But if that doesn't suit you,
No, it would suit me. But I like that we're not like we have to be passed by Christmas. Do you know what I mean?
Sure,
Some people
sure.
have said that. Well, I'm supposed to be passed before this time.
It
It's like you
just
can't say when you're going
puts
to be
extra
passed.
pressure, doesn't it? That's the only thing. And I always advise people, it's best not to tell people when your tests are, because then, if it doesn't work the way you want, then you've got dozens of phone calls. People say, "How did it go?"
Yeah.
I failed.
And
Not that I
just,
think it will, of course.
Bog you down.
That's great. Still happy?
Yes.
Excellent. Same time next week.
Yes.
Brilliant. I shall look forward to seeing you then.
Date is it next week? Is it bonfire now? I know it's not. It's far off, isn't it? Yeah. I've got the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right. I meant to ask you, in terms of your preparation, did you watch the DVD? And
I couldn't find me on YouTube. This last one, I did.
Oh.
I did try. I didn't try. When did you put it on?
I'll double check on that. I did it the same day. No, I didn't. I did it the next day. Because I had some
Couldn't
issues.
find it. I literally went on it last night. Unless I'm typing it wrong thing. Unless I look same as another one.
Unless I've not listed it properly. I will have a look.
Yeah, I
when
didn't
when
look,
get back.
but I've gone through
Cool.
everything, and I've just been practicing with theatre all the out.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Oh, don't forget your phone. And I shall see you next week.
Right, thank you very much, Bob.
It's nice and sunny now, isn't it?
Looking at the end of the lesson, you would have the learner mark the targets in their workbook and the corresponding master progress chart, while you update yours in your student record system binder. If you use the instructor's lesson login notes, you could just copy the information across later. So now we know what we've achieved. We would then have a little chat about, and what's the provisional plan for next time. You would then need to do your admin and your reflection, so update their appointment record in the back of their driving skills workbook. Make sure also that you update your record and your student record, and get any paperwork signed that would release money from clients' accounts, that kind of stuff. Be sure you do this properly. This is vitally important, because if there are any disputes or any problems later, there's an audit trail here. And then do your reflective notes. Either use the summary lesson planner, reflective notes section of the binder, or a much more detailed instructor's lesson log in notes form. Vitally important, because as we've discovered, this is how human beings learn. This is how you learn. Then look in your Part 3 logbook. Rate your performance, in terms of lesson planning, risk management, teaching and learning strategies. It may well be that you were only working on one of these aspects. Describe what happened on the lesson, how did you feel it went, now you've had more time to reflect, what went well, what didn't go so well. Why do you think it was that the things that went well, and the things that didn't go well, didn't? And what could you have done differently? And then based on the above, what changes will you make next time? So although you're helping your learner develop goals and lesson plans for themselves, you also need to do the same. We should always be working on something. We should always try to be striving for perfection in everything that we do. We'll probably never reach it, but we should be striving for it. We should always be developing. Every day should be a school day. So you get the chance to update your log and then make plans for what you're going to do on your next lessons. Perhaps add some stuff for your next session with your trainer. So this is, it's the ultimate client-centered resources and systems for passing your Part 3 or your standards check. We have our 3-hat approach, our guardian of safety, our empowering coach, our expert advisor. The relationship is that of equals, and we want our learners having ownership, utilising the freedom within form matrix that's in the middle, and these systems. If you apply them effectively and efficiently, I guarantee you success at your Part 3 or standards check. If you're an existing instructor and you're watching this, in terms of preparing for your standards check, and if you stop using this, get used to it again. This is everything you need, omitting no detail, no matter how slight. Thanks for watching. Do feedback into the Facebook student group as to how you're finding these things, and we will be organising some Zoom sessions so we can have a chat about it, and make notes and have a discussion with your trainer or with other PDIs as a result of what you've discovered here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next presentation.